Good evening, UC Bearcat fans. It's UC Bearcats on the Prowl, part of the Grueling Truth Radio Network. Mark, what have those Bearcats been up to?
Well, James, now we do have some football news, but it's all basketball on in action. Let's say it that way. So the men had a game this past Sunday against Howard, won it 84 to 67, which is the way they should have won it. I mean, Howard's not a bad team; they're not a great team, but they can present some challenges. So, the men went out and they handled business, and then they did it the way they should have. It's good to see the field goal percentage and the 3-point percentage come up since that dismal shooting against Villanova. So, that was good to see.
Yeah. And I think the big part of it, I mean, the first half was pretty even game, was just
Mhm.
how UC with their depth really took over in the second half. That's the big story of it.
Yeah, they did. They warmed down, I mean, Arrington Page played a good amount. So did Betsy, so did Day Day, and obviously, you get the contributions from the starters. So it's good to have that many people that you can run in and do well. I mean, he's confident he could basically put two full sets of five out there at any point in time, different sets. So
Oh,
like a first
definitely.
and second. Then there's not, I mean, there's some drop off, but not a ton, especially when you're playing the likes of Howard.
Exactly. Yeah, I was going to say with the depth that we have, I mean, it was a no-brainer, and it was great to see some of those other guys get more game in-game experience.
Yeah, yeah, and oh gosh, why can't I remember his name? The young man who got his 1,000th point. I think it
Oh,
was.
Simus.
Yeah, thank you. Thank or no, I want to say it was the transfer from Bradley. Uh, why can't I Hickman? Hickman got his 1,000th point in college. Obviously not as a Bearcat.
Yeah,
But yeah, so he scored his 1,000th point. That was good to see, for him. So it was a good all around game, a good warm up for the crosstown shootout on Saturday. And you know, the ESPN has their little predictor thing, and they feel pretty confidently that it's going to be UC. But you got a chance to see the enemy tonight in person, and saw them put on quite the offensive display.
oh yeah, they were dominant tonight. Yeah, it was at Cintas Center, and
Hmm.
yeah, it was definitely one-sided. I mean, gosh, they won 119 to 58, and
Yeah,
that is quite impressive.
it
But
is.
that's against Morgan State, Xavier's had
Right.
a good season so far this year. They had a close loss to TCU. They
Hmm.
had some win, South Carolina State. They lost to Michigan, but then who hasn't lost to Michigan? They
Yeah.
beat South Carolina. So, I mean, Siena. So they're beating some of the people they're supposed to beat, Wake Forest. Uh,
Right.
yeah,
Right. I think the thing that concerns me a little bit about Xavier right now is they hadn't been shooting well, and then all of a sudden tonight they go out there and yeah, it was against Morgan State. People will say, "Oh yeah, UC beat Howard," So, but there's always, and we've talked about this. I think every year that we talk about the crosstown shootout, there's somebody that comes out of nowhere for
exactly.
Xavier who's going to have a huge game and make life hell for the Bearcats. He'll start shooting three-pointers from the half court regularly and make them. So hopefully, as a UC fan, hopefully Xavier got all their good shooting out of their veins tonight.
Yeah. So you're right. Yeah, I was going to say there always seems somebody steps up and has one heck of a game. Zach Freemantle has had a heck of a season for him. He's a grad transfer and he has been dominant at 6'9". I mean,
Yeah.
gosh, he's been rebounding, he's been assisting. I know, we're UC here, but it's definitely worth checking him out and watching him play. That was quite enjoyable.
Yeah, what he had 27 tonight, and it looked
Yeah,
like he didn't miss much. He was 8 of 11 on from the field and two of three from 3-point range. So, have to watch him. We'll see. Hopefully, you said he's 6'9", so that's going to be Bandago out there guarding him. I could even maybe see him sliding Donovan Mitchell over to him since he's a little bit more athletic. So, and maybe giving up a little bit height wise, but still being a little more athletic to be able to keep up with him. So we'll see.
yeah. So yeah, I mean, it should be a good game. Like you said, UC is going to be favored because UC is the better team. I mean, but then
Yeah.
again, that hasn't always worked out for UC when they've been the better team.
Right, right. Just see Villanova. They were better than Villanova and just couldn't shoot. So but we'll see how it goes Saturday. We'll talk about it next week, and hopefully we're talking about a win. I got a good feeling about it.
And the interesting thing is, I know the crosstown shootout is huge for us, but do you think Xavier might be overlooking us? Because right after they play UC, they're playing UConn.
Yeah, who knows? Because quite honestly, UConn hasn't shown much, and maybe Xavier's thinking they could beat them, But then also, you got to look on the other side of it. The Bearcats, we play the Flyers, we play Dayton right afterwards, so it's another one of those, But with it being the crosstown shootout, I hope that neither side overlooks the other. But you do make a valid point.
Definitely. And then we owe them one from Dayton. We owe them one from last year as well because,
Oh yeah,
yeah, they embarrassed us last year at Centos.
yep,
But the good news is Xavier has shown well against them earlier this year, 98-74. So it was a pretty lopsided
okay,
victory for Xavier over Dayton.
yeah, yeah, and Dayton did all right in the they won a game or two, in that whatever shootout they were in, the
Exactly.
Maui Invitational, I think. So yeah, that'll be a fun game too. But this is the time of year where it's a game, almost a game a week, for the basketball team, just with the holidays and everything. But it'll be good to see how they do against Xavier and how they do against Dayton.
Definitely. And then on the women's side, they had a couple games last week. They
Yeah,
had the Tuesday game, which fortunately I did not go to. And I say fortunately I didn't go to. It's not that I wouldn't wanted to see them play basketball, but I was going to show up at 7 o'clock at night, and that would have not been fun to show up and then the
yeah,
stadium be empty. Everyone's like, "Yeah,
yeah,
the game was over around 1 o'clock. What are you doing here?"
yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah,
That was the big win they had against Central Connecticut. Not big in terms of meaning, but big point wise.
exactly.
Yeah,
Lopsided. Yes.
yeah, 78-49. Then you talk about lopsided. What about their second game on Friday night? They beat Western Illinois, which actually coming into the game, we had talked about it a little bit. Western Illinois was 5-1, but the Bearcats beat them 95-52. It was impressive. The only quarter that they didn't score more than 20 points was the second.
Yeah,
So
so it's nice to see that. Oh my gosh. And in the third quarter, 32
yeah,
freaking points. Oh my,
32 points.
yeah, yeah, I was gonna say for the team, yeah, and of course, Regina Jackson had a
Yeah.
great game. Let's see. Whoa, that is crazy. Jillian only scored 9 points, and I guess, because they were winning by so much, they probably took her out a bunch.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or she was just letting her teammates do more stuff. Yeah, because
Quite possible as well.
yeah, Rebecca had a good game. Well, the other players, 2010. I mean,
Hmm.
yeah. So
Yeah,
yeah,
it was. You know what? It's nice to see scoring coming from other people. Yeah. Hey, she can't score all the points all the time. And so seeing her have a game where she didn't score as much is a good thing because you saw what Reagan Jackson step up with 29, Hilton stepped up with 20. I mean, that's good. That's good to see. They're going to need that in the conference play, which I think starts. But they got the crosstown shootout, then they got Marshall, then they got Kansas State. So
yeah, exactly. Basically, there's two more games for both the men and the women, and then they start their conference up.
yeah, and again, we've talked about it in the past. Big 12, big time basketball conference. It really tests them, and it'll be good to see how they do during it.
Exactly. And I'm just really excited about Reagan because she's a sophomore. So
Yeah.
seeing her step up gives us a bright future
Hmm.
because Hilton, she's a senior. Hayes is a senior. And don't get me wrong, we should enjoy this season and not, focus on what we're going to lose at the end of the season. But, shoot, it is nice to know that the
Hmm.
other players are building themselves up.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Absolutely. They need to. They do. They need to get some better game action and just prove that they can do it, and so they are. So and that's a good thing.
Now, this thing used to be the biggest thing in college sports. This was like one of the biggest days in the year because shoot, this was the only way to get new players. Was, of course,
Yeah.
is important thing to recognize because now, shoot, even if you didn't get anybody from high school, which no one's
Mhm.
going to not, get somebody, but even if you don't get what you want, obviously a lot of times people are getting them in the transfer portal.
Yeah.
But it is still important to talk about signing day.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, got a quarterback, a running
Mhm.
back, a couple tight ends, several linemen, that kind of thing.
Yeah, they replenished where they needed to. The one thing I will say is, and this is disappointing. This was brought up by some major local sports people. No Cincinnati kids, um, and I find that really hard to swallow because having coached high school here for a long time, some of the best football in the state is here in Cincinnati, and you are losing a chance to really build on local kids. And I don't know if Satterfield just doesn't realize that. I mean, his recruiting group can't be that bad, but I mean, like let's talk about the Herb Street kid from
Yeah,
St. X. He committed, his dad was an Ohio State Buckeye, Ohio State Buckeye quarterback. He committed to Michigan. That was the only Division I program, at least from what I read, that offered him a scholarship. Was Michigan, or that offered him a full ride. Maybe the others might have offered him, bits here and there. But to think that we get this kid in our backyard who is a solid quarterback. He's not great, but he's solid and he's good enough to go to Michigan and play.
exactly. Yeah, I was going to say, if someone's good enough to go to Michigan, they're
Yeah,
good enough to get offered a scholarship.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
How's UC not offering him a scholarship?
yeah,
Like the Moeller kid, Matt Potts. I always mispronounce his last name, Potstansky. He was Mr. Football this year. He's a junior, and he was at Ohio State for the game. As a recruiting trip. But has UC even talked to him? I've heard no. Just through the grapevine, and so it's a little frustrating when you have good talent here in Cincinnati. You really, really do. And Satterfield's group isn't taking advantage of it, and that's irritating. So,
exactly. You would think, because that was one of the things that Fickle did so well was
mhm.
recruit local. I was going to say that got so many people excited about the team. Plus, got him some better talent. I mean, don't get me
Right.
wrong, he does have some Ohio people, but Toronto, Wayne,
Mhm.
Avon, Dayton, um, yeah, nothing nearby really. I mean, well, Dayton
Yeah.
was the one, but and then even if, yeah, along with that, I'm biased, of course, because I'm from Kentucky. I would think there would be some people in the northern Kentucky area that he might have some interest as well.
Yeah. Well, you got Highlands, you got Cooper, you got Scott, you got, and
Kyle, Cup Calf,
yeah,
yeah.
you've got a lot of good teams around, and to not have anybody sign. I mean, shoot, go find a kid from. I mean, I'm an Oak Hills guy. Go find a kid from Oak Hills. They got 2 and 3 star recruits there.
Mhm.
Sign somebody there and then develop them. Get a kid from Taylor. Get a kid from Anderson. Something like that. I don't understand a lot about what Scott Satterfield does, and we've talked about that. Scheme wise. I don't understand not using Cincinnati as a building block for your team. And you're right, Fickle did that. Fickle had an in here. He wanted to be here.
Mhm.
He knew the area. He was always visible to local coaches, and I can say that as a local coach, he was always visible. So it's frustrating when you've got so much talent here that they're not taking advantage of it.
Exactly.
So,
So, I mean, it, yeah, everything's, to be seen,
mm,
but yeah, kind of like same with like the NFL draft. They always give out grades and ratings. Heck, the NFL signing day, they give out ratings and that kind of thing. And how
mhm.
do you really know what you got until 3, 4 years from now?
Right. And you're 100% correct. And so maybe some of this is a bit of an emotional overreaction with the local kids, but I have I've coached football in Cincinnati in high school for 20 plus years, and I know that this is a big area for that. And so we'll see down the road. it is what it is. Hopefully we'll do, we'll see something. Maybe we'll get some transfers. Maybe there'll be some late signings. It doesn't always have to happen on National Signing Day, so possibly he's got something in the works. I just would really like to see him recruit local instead of bringing in a bunch of 3 stars from Florida or Canada or other places, to not play hard.
Exactly. Yeah, it just doesn't make any sense.
So, but that was National Signing Day. I think even better than National Signing Day was the fact that Dante Corleone announced that he's coming back. Yesterday, he's coming back for his 4th year.
Really?
Yeah, yeah. He put it out on Twitter. And because James, I had the same look, man. Because after after that last game, he and Corey Kiner,
Yeah.
were posing for pictures. I believe they may have even honored him for senior day because they figured he was going to the draft.
Yeah.
He announced he's coming back. So, and I think I don't want this to sound bad, but I think his subpar season this past year
Yeah.
is the main reason why he wants to come back and prove that he can do it. So yeah, so he'll be back.
Definitely. Yeah. Shoot. Oh, okay, because he had already redshirted. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, because I'm like, I always thought he was a senior. So when you were like, yeah, he's coming back, I'm like, what? As a grad student, as a coach, what's he
Mm-hmm.
coming back as? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
so he's coming back for his last year, and then so that's big news. And then also today there was more news out of football. They parted ways with Cincinnati legend Kerry Combs. He was told that he was not needed anymore, so he will not be on the coaching staff. He was the cornerbacks coach and special teams coordinator. So, and again, this is just being in Cincinnati high school coaching. Oddly enough, the Coleraine job came open about 2 months ago and has not been filled yet. And that's where Kerry Combs made his name, was at Coleraine. So, but yeah, so Satterfield is making some changes to his coaching staff, starting with Kerry Combs, but I have read that there's more coming.
And then understand that we landed three of the players ended up winning awards,
Mhm.
all Big East first team.
Yes. Yeah.
So like Corey Leone, which we were just talking about how great he is, even though it wasn't his best year, but
Hmm.
still an impressive year, uh, better than shoot most of the other defensive linemen out there. And then of
Hmm.
course the tight end, your guy from Ohio State,
Royer.
who is, yeah, I mean, shoot, he ended up beating a Travis Kelsey record.
Hmm.
Yep. And then I know we haven't been thrilled with the offensive line, but Luke uh,
Condra.
Chandra
Yeah.
as yeah. So shoot. So at least there were some, some bright spots.
Yeah, and I'm going to be honest. I've seen just reading, with the Bengals season basically being over, I've turned my, a young man turns his fancies towards the mock draft. And Condra is kind of being seen as a third, fourth round pick, a day 3 pick, but still a high day 3 pick, because of how well he has played. So I think that's going to be going to be a great opportunity for him.
Definitely. And then there were some other honorable mentions, which are always nice.
Mhm.
Mason Fletcher, who
Mhm.
has been phenomenal in the past.
Mhm.
Uh, Bartlett, Jared, and Jake Golday.
Mhm.
So
Yeah,
yeah,
it would just be nice to see more because that means they're winning games. And what kills me, James, the Big 12 champion is Arizona State, and they get a bye in the first round of the playoffs, and UC beat them. I mean, that shows you how frustrating those last 5 games were, because not only did Arizona State beat Iowa State, they demolished them. It was like 42-17 or something,
yeah.
and UC's defense held them to 14 points and held Scatabo to 1 touchdown.
Oh, wow,
So, so that's frustrating. A frustrating exclamation point on a frustrating season.
exactly. Well, so on the bright side, we got some new players.
Hmm.
We got the basketball teams both doing
Yep.
good. Got one of their arguably their biggest game of the year this weekend, Saturday for the
Yep.
men, Sunday for the women. And yeah, so we got a lot of stuff to look
Yep.
forward to.
Yeah, just got to go out there and beat the University of Norwood.
Shoot. But yeah, shoot. Any final thoughts?
Nah, let's just I'd like to see UC continue their winning ways and get a win over the guys in blue.
Good. For James Ernest and Mark Fightmaster, this has been UC Bearcats on the Proud, part of the Grueling Truth Radio Network.